My walleye is bigger than Randin's walleye.
Hello and welcome to the Fish House Nation podcast and Catch Cover Live. And I always tell guests before we go on, I'm going to mute your mics while that screen is up. And I missed the button on Erik Osberg. So he just announced to the world that his walleye was bigger than Randin's. And maybe it was, and maybe it was one of those photo tricks. But nice walleye indeed. We're going to continue to discuss great ice fishing destinations here on the Catch Cover podcast this season. Today, we're going to be talking Otter Tail County with Randin Olson from Lockjaw Guide Service and Erik Osberg from the Outdoor Report. He is also the Rural Rebound Initiative Coordinator with Otter Tail County. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on the show.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Let's start with Erik first, because this is a super easy question. Erik, where is Otter Tail County?
That is an easy question, but I'm glad you asked. We're in the northwest central part of the state. We like to say that we're in the middle of everywhere. We're 45 minutes due eastish of Fargo-Moorhead and roughly 2.5, 3 hours northwest of the Minneapolis-St. Paul area.
So basically straight west and kind of right up there. You're one county off from being on that North Dakota border. So
yep.
Straight over there. And let's kind of get an answer from both of you guys. What is so special about Otter Tail County? Randin, you can start.
I got to say just the variety. The variety is the spice of life, and there's not much you can't do here, really. Actually, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything you can't do here except maybe catch a tarpon or something like that. But yeah, you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do, right? It's all here. So if you hunt, fish, walk, shop, all that stuff, we're just kind of in the middle.
All right, Erik, your turn.
We have 1,048 lakes, which is more lakes than any other county in the United States. And to put that in perspective, if you fished a new lake or if you visited a new lake once a week, it would take you 20 years to see them all. So 1,048 lakes. As Randin said, there's lots of different ways to enjoy the area, but if you're into ice fishing, we've got something for you.
So 1,048 lakes, and Minnesota's the land of 10,000 lakes. You got 10% of them right there. But my grandpa always got a snicker out of that. He said, "Yeah, they count every pothole up there."
I don't know what the official acreage is to qualify as a lake. Maybe we're counting some smaller ones, but 1,048, any way you slice it, is a lot.
It's a lot. It's 10% of all of them. One of the things that you guys always talk about, and I always hear about, is big panfish in Otter Tail County. What can people expect if they come out to Otter Tail County for the first time?
You want it, Erik, or you want me?
I want you to go first.
Okay. Yeah, so they call it Panfish Paradise, and they're not lying for sure. You know, all those lakes, the 1,048 lakes that like Erik mentioned, probably 1,045 of them are really good panfish lakes. We've just got the right makeup here. We've got a lot of the good weed beds. Our lakes set up really nice for the way panfish like to live. So they tend to grow pretty large, pretty quick. And we actually put in some initiatives the last couple of years of dropping the limits down to protect some of those bigger fish. But that's kind of a whole different operation there. But it's just, you don't even have to know a whole lot about it because there's so many people up here that do it. Even if you have no idea where to go, you can kind of look for a giant community of houses and you'll be on some fish, you know. But if you want to put a little research in, it still won't take you too long. Go online, you can look at stocking surveys, and the biggest compliment I get up here is when people come from down south. 7 to 8, 9 inch bluegills is kind of normal up here, where everywhere else seems to be a lot smaller. So crappies are kind of the same way. That 10 to 12 inch range is probably our average fish up here. With 15s are not uncommon. Even 16s, we get guys catching 16s throughout the winter. So It's definitely Panfish Paradise, and you've got plenty of options.
All right, Erik, what do you think?
I couldn't agree with Randin more. My boy who's sitting in the truck next to me at the moment, Willie's in the truck with me, but his personal best bluegill is 11 inches, and he caught it in Otter Tail County. And until you've seen an 11-inch, if you take out a ruler, my phone's slipping. If you take out a ruler and you measure 11 inches, that's a beast. It doesn't even look like a bluegill anymore. So those trophies, and Randin mentioned the trophy crappies as well. The trophies are here. I've had a group of anglers out, and a gal was holding up a 15 and some inch crappie, and she's like, I thought I had to go to Canada to catch these. I'm like, nope. And Randin mentioned it a little bit as well. Those initiatives to try to A, preserve, and B, promote trophy fisheries. Anglers, we really have to be careful about selective harvesting. Those big bluegills, it takes them a long time to get that big, and you start pulling those bigger bluegills out of the system, those smaller bluegills get to put their energy into reproduction rather than growth. And not only that, but you take the genetics out of the system. So we encourage folks to come enjoy Panfish Paradise, but please, pretty please, do it responsibly and use selective harvesting and leave the trophies for someone else to enjoy.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that and get into maybe a little bit more detail about that. And again, if anyone has any questions for Randin or Erik, go ahead and put them in the comments so we can get them to them now. But what is being done to kind of protect them? You guys talked about initiatives. What are those initiatives? And also, what is it, about the area that you think kind of creates this situation where you've got the fish that you've got? We can start with Randin.
So the initiatives are, a lot of them are dropping the possession limits down from, like, the bluegills, normal possession limit's 10 a day. They're dropping it down to like 5. And same with crappies, they're dropping it down a ways. And that's more or less to protect the fisheries that we have. We've seen it time and time again. When a lake gets hot, everybody and their brother goes there, and it goes for like a year, maybe 2 years, and then the lake, nobody fishes it anymore because the fishing's died out. So we're trying to protect that by dropping these numbers down, these possession limits, and it's really going to help. The flip side is we still got to, like Erik mentioned, practice our selective harvesting, especially when it comes to any lake, really, but those initiative lakes, because those initiative lakes have shown the potential to grow very large panfish. That's why those initiatives are on there, to save the lakes and protect them. So when you're up here, those 7 to 8 inch fish are perfect to take home and eat, but let's try to, get those 8.5s, definitely 9s, 10s, 11s. I mean, if you're going to take one home to mount it, no big deal, but let's throw those other ones back. We don't need to be eating those. So.
Yeah, and as far as why we have such good fisheries, I would compliment the DNR. I mean, they're the fisheries department in Fergus Falls, they work really hard. They've got a staff to try to monitor the lakes. And again, Randin mentioned it a little bit earlier, but the types of lakes that we have, they have good weeds, they have good structure, they've got good oxygen levels. And when, there's a lot of, walleye is arguably the most popular fish. And so, in the state of Minnesota anyways. And so a lot of times what happens is the pan fishing, and I would argue the bass fishing or the pike fishing, those other species get overlooked or underappreciated. And so when you take the environment that these fish are naturally in, and again, from a natural standpoint, these 1,048 lakes, most of them are naturally bass panfish lakes. Mesotrophic, I think, is the technical term. So the attention that walleyes get, and just the way Mother Nature set up the lakes in this area, that's what leads to Panfish Paradise.
All right, if you got any questions for Randin or Erik, go ahead and put them in the comments, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. And just also want to point out, Erik is joining us from his vehicle right now, but he is pulled over, so he is doing it safely. So if you see the car, you're like, hey, hopefully this guy's not driving down the highway at 65 miles an hour. He did pull over.
If the car starts rocking, it's because it's super windy. So it's not me driving. It's just really windy.
All right, Erik, you talked about walleyes, and I know you've got Walleye Willie sitting right next to you. Walleyes, there he is. What's going on, Willie? Walleyes are, like you say, they're the big ticket fish in Minnesota, and you've got those as well. We've been talking panfish, but I know the National Walleye Tour was just out there on Otter Tail Lake. Tell us a little bit about the walleyes out in your neck of the woods.
Well, I like to call it, a lot of our fisheries are quantity versus quality. That being said, there are big walleyes. If anybody paid attention to the National Walleye Tour Championship when it was here, the kid that won it, Eric McCoy, he was able to stick I think a 26 and a 28 on the same day. And for that fishery, that's not common, right? Like, you're not coming to Otter Tail Lake to catch a fish of a lifetime. It can happen, but you're coming to Otter Tail Lake to get a fish fry. And Randin, when he's guiding, especially during the summer months, he spends a lot of time on Otter Tail. And I've seen Randin catch a 29 and a half on Otter Tail Lake, but it's literally a walleye factory. There's a DNR hatchery near on the Dead River that runs from Otter Tail to Walker Lake. And so if you're looking for quantity, Otter Tail Lake is a good option 1A.
All right, Randin, your thoughts on walleyes in Otter Tail County?
Yeah, like Erik said, it's definitely a quality over quantity area. But with that being said, with 1,048 lakes, the DNR has done a really good job at kind of excluding a couple that can really show that they can build big fish, and they've kind of set some regulations on those lakes to improve that size structure. You know, there's just a handful of lakes just around my house that you could go to, and you might not catch 50 fish in a day, but every bite could be a 10-pound walleye too. So it's kind of, it's what you want to make it when you come up here. If you want fish, there's plenty of lakes to go and just get your fish to eat. If you're chasing a trophy, there's plenty of lakes as well that you can go out and get that trophy fish and have the shot at it. You kind of got to decide what you want. But overall, all of our lakes have, I would say, better than average walleye fishing. Time dependent a little bit on them, but better than average overall. And, you know, it doesn't matter, big or small, you can get out of the wind and go to a small lake and you can do just as good as you could have did on the big lake. So variety is the spice of life. We got that here. I said that again, but it's true up here. It really is.
I've seen you on YouTube, Randin, talking pike setups with tip-ups. Tell me about the pike fishing up in Otter Tail County.
Yeah, pike fishing, you know, since the new regulations went in where people are keeping, we've seen a big uptick in pike. They're trying to get rid of those smaller kind of hammer handle pike, if you will, and it's working really well. A lot of people are keeping those, and just in the last couple of years of seeing that, I'm actually starting to see a little bigger size on average of the pike. And the nice thing is pike bite, rain, shine, wind, kind of whatever the weather's going, the pike are always active. So, and they're in basically every little pothole, slough, lake, pond, everything up here. But a lot of opportunities for pike. We got a few opportunities for real giant pike, but you're gonna have to do a little research if you want one of those 20+ pounders. Ottertail's a great place to do it. Big Pine's another great place. We got a lot of lakes that got those opportunities for giant pike. You're just gonna have to do a little research to look. But if you're just looking to catch some pike and have some fun, you can throw a dart at the map and go about anywhere.
Erik, one of the things I really enjoy, and if you guys are on Facebook, you got to subscribe to the Outdoor Report, because Erik's going live all the time throughout the summer and the winter. But you're on the lake all the time, Erik. It seems like I see you out there doing different things. Tell me about some of the pike adventures that you've had out there in your neck of the woods.
Randin's right. There's a chance at a trophy pike. Willie's your personal best came on Mille Lacs, but he's gotten one day we got a 37 and a 36. I was fishing in a high school tournament on Ottertail, and the kid that I had, this wasn't ice fishing, this was open water, but the kid I had in the boat with me, he got his personal best on one cast, and then three cast, which was like 33, and then 3 casts later he got a 36. So yeah, there's big pike, and one of our favorite ways to interact with those big pike is spearing. And so spear fishing is a great way to figure out, Yogi Berra said it best. You can observe, you can learn a lot by observing, right? And whether you're targeting pike specifically, or you're just shallow water sight fishing, which is something that we tend to do. You get to see all sorts of things, and not only do you just get to see all sorts of fish, but you get to see how they interact with your baits and things like that. So with a lot of the clear water lakes that we have, spearing is another way to enjoy the healthy pike population.
Hey guys, most of the shows we've done this year so far have been based on places like Mille Lacs or Upper Red or Lake of the Woods, kind of one place. But we're talking about a full area here, a county, lots of different lakes, as you guys have said. And I don't want you to give away any of your super secret honey hole type of spots, but what are some lakes that people, if they're coming out to Otter Tail County for the first time, they should kind of look at as a place to kind of get started in your area? And Randin, you can go first.
Yeah, there's kind of a big few number of lakes that everybody's kind of heard of from Otter Tail County. You've got Otter Tail, Big Pine, Little Pine, Rush. There's a couple others that I can't even think of right now. There's so many lakes up here, but those ones are kind of the big ones that everybody kind of knows about. A lot of resorts on there for people to stay at, and they're great fishing. They're great all-around fishing lakes, which is nice. You can go on one lake and in the morning get your panfish, middle of the day get your pike, and go back in the afternoon and get your walleyes. There's a ton of opportunities up here, and I feel like a lot of the small lakes don't get the credit they deserve, but that's kind of the beauty up here is there's always something new to explore.
Erik, were there any that Randin left off that are some lakes that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Well, here's what I will share. If you look at Ottertail, Dead, and Star, those are 3 lakes that are connected. You've got 25,000 acres of water between those 3 lakes. That's a lot of water. And that's just 3 of them. So, no, I just reiterate what Randin said. Ottertail is a good place to, if you're going walleye fishing, Ottertail is a great lake. Big Pine's a great multi-species lake. Rush Lake is a great multi-species lake. It does get hard to name names because as the lakes get smaller and smaller, you're really guarded against what Randin alluded to earlier. Once word of a hot bite gets out, it tends to get a little bit more pressure than it can handle. But if you're into walleyes, Ottertail is a good place to start.
All right, guys, our show caters to all ice anglers, but we focus kind of on the wheelhouse and kind of the hard-sided crowd. And when we talk about Mille Lacs and Upper Red and Lake of the Woods, we talk about, all these roads and road passes and stuff like that. Is there anything like that in your neck of the woods? If people come out there to go fish Ottertail, what are they going to find when they pull up with their wheelhouse?
So we don't have, that I'm aware of, there's not a road pass area where you go buy a ticket or nothing. All of our lakes are public lakes, public accesses to all the lakes. And if there's one fish house out there, usually somebody's making a road out there. I know myself personally with the rentals, I've got roads going all over the place in the winter. Half the time I'm going to spots that I might fish and I never make it there. So I got spider webs all over the lake, and it's public lake. So it's never an issue really up here to just come up from the cities, bring your wheelhouse. You can find somewhere to put it on a good piece of structure and a good spot to fish. And for the most part, you can get away without having a plow on your truck. Now, when I say that, I want you to be mindful too, is just you can flood roads and you can do some bad things in the winter if you just set up on a road and start drilling holes. So just be a little mindful, kind of use your common sense when you're fishing this stuff.
I would add, it's always good to have a buddy who has a plow on the front of his truck. There are usually, a pretty good system of roads on Ottertail. There's usually a pretty good system on Big Pine. And if you're talking early ice, you're not necessarily talking wheelhouses, but obviously it's all weather dependent. Some years are harder than others to get around, to move around. There's been some years where you get a spot that you get and you're just going to have to grind it out there. But guys like Randin who are renting fish houses, they're on most of the popular lakes, making sure they can get around, and that helps us, those of us without a plow truck, helps us get around too.
Yeah, I think when people take a lot of these trips, what they're looking for is kind of a weekend deal where they're going to go out and kind of have a good time and hang out with their buddies. And one of the things that people really enjoy, even if they're bringing their wheelhouse out, is going in and having a nice supper club dinner and having the opportunity to go and get the things you want to get if you need some groceries. Erik, can you tell us a little bit about what that is like as far as resort life up in Otter Tail County?
Absolutely. Again, I don't want to give too much attention to Otter Tail Lake, but if you have a wheelhouse and you want to go to town, like you said, to have a good meal, you've got the Otter Supper Club right there in Otter Tail. You've got cars, and you've got the other gas station. They've got bait. There's Willie T's, Thumper Pond. If you don't have a wheelhouse, Thumper Pond Resort, which is not on Otter Tail, but which is right next to Otter Tail, they've got an indoor water park. So you could bring the kiddos, you could bring the family, and if you're going out and fishing during the day, they can be hanging out in the pool, or you can be hanging out in the pool and going fishing at night. But there's a lot of resorts that are open year round. Holly's Resort, which is on Otter Tail, is open year round. Shady Grove Resort, which is on Rush Lake, is open year round. East Silent Lake Resort, which is on East Silent Lake, is open year round. You've got hotels, if you're just looking for a place to crash for the night, you've got Battle Lake Inn and Suites, you've got Country Inn and Suites in Perham, Country Inn and Suites in Parker's Prairie, and Fergus Falls. Obviously, there's some hotels there too. So there's a pretty cool nightlife if your nightlife is burgers and beer, and places to shop and all sorts of things you can do other than catch fish. But you're gonna just hunker down in the shack for the weekend, that's okay too.
I just worked a show with you guys over the weekend, and I know that you get out on the show and you guys start talking to people and they start asking where you're from. And if someone were to ask you, let's say you guys are working the St. Paul show and someone says, hey, I'm thinking about bringing my wheelhouse out to Otter Tail County, what would be your best advice to them? And we'll let Randin answer first.
I would say, boy,
that was kind of a tough one. I know it is. But if they're like, hey, I'm thinking about bringing my house out there, what should I do? What should I bring? Those type of things.
Yeah. First off, I think if you're coming up to fish, one of the best things you can do is start making some phone calls before you come up, right? Call some of the sports shops, even some of the gas stations. They're listening, they're hearing the reports coming in from everybody getting bait. Just call around a little bit and kind of see what the word is first. It'll give you a good idea where to start, what lake you're going to hit, and that kind of stuff. And like Erik said, you're not far from anywhere here. Even if you're out in some of the remote lakes, you're still only 15, 20 minutes from town. So you're never too far away if you need a few things. But that would be my biggest advice, is call some of the bait shops, gas stations, things like that, and just try to get some of the info out of them. Usually they're pretty willing to spill it.
All right, Erik, your turn.
All right, I'm going to give a plug for Randin here. If you were coming up to Otter Tail County for the first time, I would book, even if you have your own wheelhouse, right? Like if you're looking to rent a shack, obviously call Randin. But even if you have your own wheelhouse, hire Randin to guide you for a half a day or for a full day, whether you're out of portables or whatever it might be. But every time I've spent time with Randin or another guide, there's other guides besides Randin, but anytime I've spent time with guides, I always learn something. And it's not always just the spot, right? You learn how they're rigging their rods, you learn what baits they're using, you learn what lures they're using, and you learn how they break down a body of water or why they're fishing the spot that they're fishing. So again, shameless plug for Randin. If you're coming up for the first time ever, give Randin a call, see when he's available. If Randin's not available, there's lots of other guides in the area that are super knowledgeable. And even if it's just for a morning, it's money well spent.
All All right, guys, I'm sitting at my local bait shop right now. I just called you. I'm heading out to Ottertail. It's January, and I'm trying to figure out what I should put in my tackle box. What are kind of the hot baits and the things that you guys think are the perfect baits to be bringing out there? Maybe I want to catch a little bit of panfish and maybe a little bit of walleye on the side.
Yeah, so you got to kind of go by the calendar a little bit. Calendar and weather kind of go back and forth, but general rule of thumb is the earlier into ice season we are, the more aggressive you're going to be. Spoons, rattle baits, things like that. Things kind of fast moving baits. You're going to cause a lot of ruckus down there, and you're going to make fish bite. Generally, the farther into winter we go, the more towards like a dead stick, rattle reels, drop shot rigs, things like that. Things that aren't going to move a whole lot and kind of stay a little bit more stationary, a little more finessey. That stuff's going to get better as the season goes. Unfortunately, so our walleye season closes before those fish kind of turn back around late March, that late ice. So we don't get to fish that time period. So you're going to kind of end the year in that finessey, slower bite time of the year. So just kind of be prepared for that. Early, get aggressive. Late, slow it down a little.
All right, Eric, your turn.
I like to stay aggressive all year. Those rattle baits, you know, whether it's a rip and wrap from Rapala, and you can just downsize, right? Like you could have a number 3, a number 5, a number 7, and that's a really and it's a multi-species lure, especially if you're on a crappie/walleye lake. I don't disagree with Randin. That's really sound advice, but I'm too impatient, if you will, sometimes, and so I like to have a big loud bait that I can find aggressive fish, and this isn't necessarily a lure advice, but don't be afraid to go shallow. I've said it as many times as I can say. Big walleyes or even little walleyes, I believe when they're aggressive, when they're feeding, when they're in the mood to eat, they can be less than 10 feet of water a lot. And especially if anybody's ever speared, they've seen them up there. So whether you're running tip ups or, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, don't be afraid to look. Because again, when we get to ice fishing, we think about humps and we think about breaks. But think about shallow water, and it might just be a rock pile. It might be a clump of not so dead weeds. Sometimes there's a lot of reasons walleyes go shallow, and one of the main reasons is to eat, which hopefully leads to more bites.
Yeah, that's a great point, Eric. And one of the things that I also wanted to ask you about, and the last time I was on the ice with you guys, Walleye Willie was busy doing kind of a survey, a little bit of an experiment. He was looking at live bait versus plastic for panfish bite. How did that all turn out?
Do you remember how that turned out, Willie, when you did that science experiment?
Yeah,
Which one? Live bait or plastic?
the live bait worked a lot better.
Live bait worked.
I think the results were like plastics had like 9 fish and live bait had like 20 something.
2 to 1 almost.
Yeah.
2 to 1. Yeah. There's, you know, so as far as bait goes, a bucket of wax worms, a tub of wax worms, and any, you know, if you're into panfish, a tub of wax worms and a small jig, tungsten jig, and an ultralight rod or a light rod, and that's predominantly how we target bluegills, anyways.
So Walleye Willie's got it all dialed in for everybody. You got to bring those waxies with you when you come out to Otter Tail. We've been talking about bringing our own wheelhouse out, but the reality is there's a lot of people out there that want to get started in kind of the wheelhouse lifestyle and want to get a taste of it. And it doesn't really, not a better way to do that than to rent one. And that's something that, Randin, that you offer. Can you tell us a little bit about your operation as far as your wheelhouse operation you have out there in Otter Tail County over the winter?
Yeah, it's a great way, especially if you're thinking about getting into a wheelhouse. This is a good way to kind of test run it, right? You come rent a house, you can kind of feel it out. You can see if you like the layout, what you might want to change if you're going to get your own, and just see if it's a good fit for you. To my knowledge, everybody I've had out loved it. They love the experience of it and the way ice castles and fish houses in general are set up now. It's a hotel room on the lake, right? So you can be as comfortable as you want to be. It's a really good way to just kind of fish on it. So, for instance, when I put mine out, if you come and book a house with me, you will need to get to the house. But the house is already set up on a good spot. Holes are drilled, heat's on. I'll even put the Vikings game on for you if you want that. I don't put Packers on though, so you're gonna have to find that one yourself. But yeah, and I like to check on everybody a couple times a day just to make sure they're doing good. See if they have any questions on the fishing and things like that. So usually try to show up about prime time, so it looks like I'm bringing the fish to the house, and that happens quite a bit actually. But it's a good opportunity to learn some stuff, and at the same time, it get the entire experience underneath the belt.
Yeah, I went out and fished with you a couple of years ago, and it was a really, really good time to get out there and just have fun and, like say, just kind of get a chance to experience it all, especially if you don't have that opportunity. But the way fuel prices are these days, hey, pulling that house, maybe if you want to take a long run, you're better off just to go ahead and rent one. You guys, it's been great talking to you today. I always enjoy talking with both of you. Is there something that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask you about? And we'll start with Erik because Randin's always had to go first. So we'll let Erik get started on this one. Anything that you wanted to bring up?
Well, the one thing I would bring up is as good of a place as Otter Tail County is to visit, it's an even better place to live. And I talk about this a lot. We have good jobs, good paying jobs available. Lower housing costs. There's all sorts of good reasons to live in Otter Tail County. And I'm not saying you shouldn't come and try it first. Come up for a visit, come fishing, check out the communities, check out the area. And when you're packing up on Sunday night and you're heading back to wherever it is you're heading back to, ask yourself, do I really need to leave? Could I live here? And more times than not, I would argue the answer is yes. You can have the life you're looking for in Otter Tail County.
All right, Randin, closing thoughts.
Yeah, it's a great place to just be. Jobs outnumber people up here. We got houses all over the place, and like I said in the beginning, there's nothing you can't do here. We got fantastic deer hunting, decent duck hunting, great fishing. I mean, the fishing's out of this world. And like Erik said, for 20 years you can hit a new lake and never touch the same lake twice and get all the way through them. So this is definitely a really good place to just live. Not only to just enjoy the outdoors, but really to enjoy everything. No traffic jams. The worst traffic jam here, 2 cars at a stop sign. So it's just a great place. That's all I can say about it. I really love it. I'm never moving from here because it's perfect for myself.
All right, you can find both these guys on Facebook. Randin is at Lockjaw Guide Service, and Erik is at the Outdoor Report. And you can find more about Randin and his guide service at his website, lockjawfishing.com. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. Really appreciate it. And I'm not even going to say I may not see you on the ice this year. I'm definitely going to see you on the ice. So looking forward to that and getting out there and seeing you guys. Really appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having us.